We are live on Proline TV, the R Lads Football Network. Thanks for tuning in to another week of NFL and college football season preview interviews. And it's, I guess it's officially Georgia Day here at Proline TV because Jed May will be joining us at 8 o'clock tonight to talk about the Georgia Bulldogs from UGASports.com. But right now we're talking NFL, the Atlanta Falcons, and that means Kevin Knight, Falcoholic.com editor, is with us once again. How's it going, Kevin? Defending
Good.
Dynasty champion, you.
Yes. No, good. The Dynasty.
I have to keep saying that every time.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Yeah. It makes me, it's weird if I say it. If somebody else says it, then it's perfect. But no, obviously had a lot of fun playing in the Dynasty League. That's going well for me, clearly.
Representing the R Lads team.
Yep. We got to carry the load.
Draft Sharks against those Draft Shark guys, and they're pretty good. Those Draft Shark guys.
I've been told. I believe one. Jared, I think, was named the most accurate analyst last year. So shout out to Jared.
And they have Shane this year.
Okay, yeah. So
back to back. So
no slouches, certainly. I mean, was it a lucky win? I mean, maybe, but sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. So
I don't know about that.
No, it was a lot of fun.
You can't win you can't win in that league and be lucky. That's sure.
True. That's
you have to have a good team.
Some skill, maybe a little bit, but no, it was a lot of fun. Enjoyed playing with those guys. I'm sure we'll get into some fantasy talk at some point. But yeah, the Falcons training camp's been going on for over a week now, and they got their first preseason game coming up with the Lions on Friday. So starting to get ramped up here in Atlanta. It's been a very eventful and exciting training camp. So lots to talk about today.
And you have been to camp already.
Yes. Yeah. So I left last week, but I was there for the first 5 practices. Saw a lot of stuff, saw the first couple of days in pads. So lots of interesting updates, lots of pleasant surprises. It's been pretty much, other than Darnell Mooney getting hurt immediately, which that was less good. The rest of it's been pretty positive. So.
Well, speaking of injuries, tell us about anybody that right now might be in danger of not playing week 1.
Darnell Mooney, I would say it's 50-50. I mean, the team has said that they think he's, they've been very gamey about it. I think he's 50-50 to play week 1. I think if he can play, he will. Obviously, he's a big part of the offense, but the Falcons are, the timing of it was obviously good because it gives the guys that will probably be filling in for Darnell Mooney lots of opportunity to get familiar with Michael Penix. A couple of receivers have taken advantage of that, but that's the main one. Troy Anderson has still not been taken off the PUP list, so he's not practiced at this point. He's been working on the side field the whole time. Jalen Walker, the first-round pick, was missing practice for a few days with what was called a minor hamstring injury. He returned to practice today. And then third-round safety Xavier Watts was had a bit like a lighter workload today, but apparently didn't actually miss the practice itself. So those are the main ones. There's still a couple guys on NFI, some of the UDFAs and stuff like that. Okay. But in terms of the major injuries, mostly Mooney is the one to watch at this point.
Guys from last year, and you mentioned Anderson being one of them that was banged up. What about Trice and Helms?
Yes, both have been participating in all of training camp. Both haven't had their snaps limited. Helms looks healthy and good. I'm happy to see that. Trice is sort of working his way back up to full speed. He's been sort of stuck with the depth pod, but has been getting some more second team reps. So he's been kind of working his way back up. So we'll hope that by the end of camp, he's able to work in with the second team a bit more. But the reason he hasn't been is because we've had some pleasant surprises from some other contributors in the edge room. But those guys are definitely looking healthy enough to be playing at this point.
Okay. Well, again, you were at camp, so others out there watching might be interested in heading down there as well. And if they do, give me a few different position battles that you think that they should be keeping an eye on.
Yeah, so obviously the depth wide receiver battle always seems to attract lots of eyeballs, but the Falcons do have some interesting names there with Nick Nash, the Triple Crown college football winner. He's been sort of slowly working his way into the second team rotation. I still think he's not quite I wouldn't call him a favorite for the roster at this point or anything, but he's been working his way up. Okay. David Sills actually has has been the biggest surprise of that group, I would say. He's an interesting player. Kirk Cousins loves him. Now, Kirk Cousins is the second team quarterback in Atlanta, guys. So, if I say Kirk Cousins, you might think, oh, that's clearly the starter. No, which has actually been really nice because the second team offense has been really impressive with Kirk Cousins at the helm. And it's really been giving the defense a good challenge, which is nice to see. We get to actually see these guys make some great catches too. But yeah, I would say David Sills, versus Nick Nash versus Casey Washington. And DJ Shark has sort of slowly been working his way up. He came in after, I think, 2 or 3 days of camp. So he's got a ways to go before he's got the playbook. But obviously his pedigree as, just like two years ago, he's a 500-yard NFL receiver. So he's obviously got the pedigree. So at a certain point, he may sort of overtake these guys. But Chris Blair, too, has been good. I would say he's probably the favorite given his history with the team. So those guys have all been
would be a favorite of what?
To make the roster right now.
Really?
He's
Chris
wide
Blair.
receiver 6. Yeah, he was their wide receiver 6 last year. And he's like David Sills. They're both big bodies. I think Blair's just a little bit more dynamic, has a little bit more connection with Penix specifically. But again, we could see DJ Shark overtake eventually, especially if Mooney's not going to be healthy right away. That's kind of the same role. So we'll see. But yeah, Blair's never really gotten a ton of run because the Falcons have been blessed with wide receiver health for the most part. Maybe that's going to change now, unfortunately, but we'll see how that develops. But right now, I think Blair's in the lead, but I think Nick Nash and DJ Shark and David Sills are kind of right behind him. Otherwise, I would say the depth corner battle for the top outside guy is really interesting. I think a lot of people assumed that it would be Clark Phillips, given his pedigree. Yeah. But it's actually Natrone Brooks, and Clark Phillips has more or less been relegated to the third team at this point.
Okay.
Natrone Brooks is playing ahead of him. Lamar Jackson, the corner, is playing ahead of him. And Phillips is in trouble. That's definitely one to monitor. If a team needs an outside corner and they don't mind having a small outside corner, he may become available at final cuts. I mean, we'll see. But yeah, in terms of the slot battle, D. Alford has kind of seemingly taken over that for now. Billy Bowman has been rotating in, but Alford seems to be the starter at the moment, so we'll see how that develops. Kobe Bryant did miss the first week of camp on the NFI, but has since returned. He had a really impressive second day of practice a couple days ago, and then today he actually had Kirk Cousins' first interception of practice. So nice. Kobe Bryant also presents issues for Clark Phillips because now Kobe Bryant is sort of rising up the depth chart. I think he's also in contention for CB6 and making the roster as that last guy. But the issue with Phillips is that he hasn't really shown an ability to play the slot. Natrone Brooks has, and also has looked pretty good outside. They've basically had Brooks playing against Drake London a lot when the first team goes against the second team, and Drake London's been beating him. I mean, let's be honest, that's not an easy matchup. Yeah. But Brooks had the only Michael Penix interception of camp. He was able to undercut a red zone throw from Penix to London, and he's also had several pass breakups on London. So he's been holding his own, but that's a tough matchup for him. There's no doubt about that. So the Falcons, I think, are really testing Brooks to see if he's someone they can rely on if they were to keep him on there. And I think his ability to play the slot helps his chances a lot too. Obviously the edge room has a ton of intrigue. James Pierce Jr., the second first round pick, he's been getting the majority of the run because Jalen Walker missed about the first week of, he missed 3 days kind of in the middle. He was there for the first 2, then missed 3, and then has been back as of, I think, today or the last day. But Pierce has been the villain. He has gotten into fights with almost every offensive lineman. Really? He's also been really effective against them, and I think he's getting under their skin a little bit. He's kind of been the star of training camp. He has been very effective, lots of sacks, lots of pressures. And the way the Falcons practice, they mostly go second team defense versus first team offense, and then they switch it up sometimes. But so that means Pierce has been going against the first team offensive line for most of this. And he got under Matthew Bergeron's skin pretty good. He forced a hold on Jake Matthews a couple days ago. And yeah, he's been maybe the biggest story so far.
Okay.
not just from the on-field angle, but from the psychological angle of just kind of being this sort of villainous character that the Falcons defense, let's be honest, has a reputation for being a little soft, maybe, not really having that edge or having edge rush presence, in either way. But Pierce is maybe changing that a little bit. He's been
Nice.
a little spicy out there, so that's been fun to watch. And, hopefully Jalen Walker, it seems like he was back today, so he can get mixed in there as well. But Pierce has more or less moved into the second team fully. The Falcons are one of those sort of traditional style teams where they're gonna make you start with the third string and work your way up if you're a rookie. But I would say the surprise of the edge room has been Khalid Kareem, a former practice squad guy. He actually was playing with the starters early in camp and has been very good. I think he's their best run defender on the outside. He's had a lot of sacks, a lot of pressure, a lot of run stuffs. I think that he's maybe going to be in the running to be a starter because of the early down ability. Like, I don't know that he'll play a majority of snaps or anything, but I think he's one of their best run defenders and has shown, the ability to rush the passer that you need to see if you're going to play edge. And he has kind of been the reason more than anything, maybe, that Braylon Trice hasn't gotten more run with the first and second teams because Khalid Kareem has been so impressive. So that's been a nice surprise. Obviously, Jalen Walker being quiet is not something that fans wanted to hear because he's missed some time, but James Pierce Jr. has made enough noise for the both of them so far. So that's certainly the other one to watch. And then safety, it's basically been back and forth between rookie Xavier Watts and Jordan Fuller, the veteran. They basically
that's really a competition, you think?
I don't know. They've been switching back and forth. Xavier Watts is going to start, in my opinion. I don't really think there's too much concern there, but Fuller has been, solid as well. And I think the team really
Who's playing with the ones?
They switch back and forth every day.
So it's 50-50 right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it whatever you take from that. Again, this is a traditional team in terms of how they do the depth charts. They make the rookies work their way up, but Watts is splitting time with the ones right now. But I would be surprised if he's not starting week one, even though I think Fuller has certainly been, better looking here in Atlanta than he was with the Panthers at any point last year.
So if by the end of the season, and let's say Helms is healthy, ready to go 100% week one, everything's fine. Do you think that Fuller ends up number 4 snaps wise out of that room, out of those 4? Or because I know Helms is also, was coming on before the injury, as you have said, as a really important guy because of his physicality.
Yeah, Helms looks good. He's basically played the vast majority of his snaps with the second team as sort of the main second team safety, and then opposite whoever is rotating in terms of the free safeties. But, I think Fuller is ahead of him clearly, but Helms has also been good. So I think the Falcons are probably just going to roll with 4 safeties and just not bother with the 5th safety because they really like their 2 depth guys. Yeah. So, and, we'll probably see one of these other guys make the practice squad or whatnot. But yeah, we'll see how they mix in. But, as of right now, it seems like it. I would guess that Watts is going to be playing next to Jesse Bates, and then Fuller and Helms will sort of mix in as needed. They need that big nickel presence or whatever. But yeah, I would be surprised right now if Watts isn't starting week one.
Okay, now as far as the defense, I know we talked about it's not a big deal, but I was doing some research, putting this thing together for the Falcons, all my notes together. I noticed that the last, I think it's been since 2022. I think this could be the 4th year and I don't think this is going to happen, but we've talked about Ulbrich being a 4-3 guy. And I know that this is a 3-4 look. That's what they were last year. But what I also noticed was they've been going back and forth like every year with this. Dean Pease, being a 3-4 guy, Nielsen being, I think he's a 4-3 guy. Ulbrich, a 4-3 guy. Now he might have to play a little 4-3-4. And I know the whole thing about, everybody mixes and so forth. But as a Jet fan, and Ulbrich was there for a few years, they did not mix and match. They had 4 linemen, and that's what they did. They standard edges, D tackles. There weren't no mixing. So I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that they'll use one of these guys like a Walker and a Pierce more as a a defensive end in the dirt kind of guy? How do you see things unfolding? What have you seen so far?
Yeah, it's been majority 3-4. I would say 75% or more 3-4 looks.
Okay.
That was a little bit surprising. Obviously, I mean, that Ulbrich typically prefers 4-3, and I think some have argued the Falcons have better personnel for 4-3, but they're pretty
And why do
committed
you
to
say
3-4.
that specifically?
I think they have well, I think going in, and this maybe has been refuted since, but going in, I think a lot of people thought the weakness in the Falcons was that they just didn't have enough interior guys to really justify having the 3 down linemen.
Okay.
And most of their edge rushers were stand-up guys. So it was like, how are we going to make this work if we go, we can kind of do a 4-3 under look where we have a stand-up guy and a big end, and then we can sort of limit the exposure on the interior. But since training camp has started, it's clearly been that they're going to play 3-4 for the most part and maybe have a few 4-3 looks here and there. But part of the reason, David Onyemata is playing nose tackle. That's basically been where he plays every snap that he's playing. But, in terms of the weakness on the interior, Rukaroro has probably been the best player there. And it's not just been like, well, everyone else is not great, so he's the best of the rest. He's been the most dominant interior player the Falcons have. He looks great.
Okay.
He's had a sack almost every single day in practice. He's just too much. He's on the first team defense, and he's giving
over
the second.
Onyemata.
Yeah. Well, Onyemata's playing nose. Rook is playing
over Fox.
He's playing over Fox, I would say. And Fox mixes in, but Rook is playing from the 3 tech all the way to 4-eye, maybe occasionally some 5 tech stuff, but mostly in that sort of either 3 tech or 4-eye role. And he's just way too much for the second team offensive line. They can't block him. And when he's played against the starters, he's looked really good too. But he's probably he's a starter. I have no doubt about that. He's going to play next to Onyemata. The other spot is more open-ended. It's been Zach Harrison some. It's been Morgan Fox some. Brandon Dorlus has moved up the depth chart. He's now mixing in. I think he and Zach Harrison have a very similar role where they will sometimes kick out to 5 tech and play a big end when the team does some 4-3 stuff, but they're also going to play that 3 tech and 4-eye role from time to time. So really I think the reason they're playing 3-4 is because they actually want to get Aroro and Harrison and Dorlus out there. Okay. And really the question to me is like, do we actually have a nose tackle that can hold up against the run? Because I think Onyemata's, they're going to use him as like a penetration style nose. And sort of, I think that's a good role for him. He's been effective so far with that. But is he going to be able to 2-gap when they come up against teams that are going to want to try to run the ball as much as possible? And I think that's more of an open-ended question. So I wouldn't be surprised, if they look for a traditional nose tackle at final cuts to sort of rotate in with Onyemata. So I assume that they will do that because right now it's Kentavious Street that's backing him up. And again, Kentavious Street did bulk up to like 315, 320, but still not really traditional nose tackle build. So I'm curious if they will try to find, a traditional nose tackle at cuts to kind of mix in there.
Yeah, we talked about their needs in the offseason going into it, and I was looking over all of it and realized that was the one part of the defense that they have not been able to fix at this point was that interior nose guy, the depth there. So yeah, otherwise all the other needs that we talked about, they seem to put their players in place, and now we just got to see if they work. But yeah, that was definitely something that I noticed that they have to still figure out, but you can't fix everything in one off season, as we know. And Nate Ollie, how's he doing? I know that was a big get because they need pass rushing, and coaching is huge. And now they've got these talented group of pass rushers. So was he like the biggest add-on as far as the assistants? Outside of course, of Ulbrich.
Yeah, I mean, they got Ollie, and then they got Mike Rutenberg from the Jets, who I think was credited with a lot of. I'm blanking out on the linebacker's name, but he just got paid in New York.
You're talking about
Sherwood?
Yes, Jamie
yeah.
Sherwood.
Yeah. So so they managed to lure Rutenberg away from the Jets as well to help with the inside linebackers, and I think that will be a big move there. But Ulbrich also is former linebackers coach, so those two, are a great combo for the linebackers. But Ollie has been great. I mean, I think it's night and day with the pass rush. The Falcons just screwed up really badly with their defensive line coach hire. Jay Rogers was a disaster. And as was Jimmy Lake. Like, that was a disastrous decision. That's I think the biggest mistake of Raheem Morris's tenure so far, was going with Jimmy Lake and whoever Jimmy Lake wanted as his assistants. Now,
well, at least they got rid of it.
Interestingly, all the assistants they retained from the previous regime are still here. So,
okay,
interestingly, glad to move on quickly from that. But I think Ollie is gonna, and Ulbrich are putting in much more of an attacking style defense. They're not gonna bog these guys down with a bunch of coverage rules and things like that. It's gonna be penetration style front. They're gonna focus on that, and they're gonna probably simplify things on the back end and just depend on their secondary to be good enough. And I think they have the secondary to try to do that. I mean, they got Terrell, they got Hughes, who was a really pleasant surprise playing outside. They got Jesse Bates, and they got Xavier Watts, and nickel is the one spot, and hopefully D. Alford in this scheme will be a little bit better, or maybe Billy Bowman will eventually take that job over at some point. So yeah, I mean, I think Ollie has, it's night and day with some of these guys, like Rukaroro couldn't even get on the field last year. Now he's the most dominant player the Falcons have on the interior. So that's definitely coaching. I mean, I'm sure it's some development and confidence building for Rook, but it's also, I think the coaching is a big part of it. And I think that was one of the biggest issues with this team, is every single defensive lineman regressed last year. And there's just no way to slice it that it's scheme and coaching that were big players in that regression.
Now, are there any players that, staying on defense, are there any players that are going to have to work hard to keep their job? You mentioned Clark Phillips. Talking about guys like maybe D'Angelo Malone, anyone else on defense, or anyone on defense that could be a name player, whether through money. And I know Onyemata, I'm sure they wouldn't want to be in this financial situation they're in with him, but because, like I said, they already have an issue where they don't have anybody behind him, even though I know it's a different type of tackle, but still, it's almost like they're forced to just deal with it. But is there anyone else that might have to sweat it out as far as a veteran, either through contractually or just talent-wise?
Yeah, I think, Malone is certainly not safe. He's been playing a lot with the inside linebackers too. So I think they're trying to find a way to keep him around, because he is a really good special teams player, and that's, I think, kind of his best attribute right now.
That helps.
I think like Taquan Graham and Contavious Street and those guys, like, they're all fighting for probably like one depth spot. And then if the Falcons do go and find a traditional nose tackle, they're probably not going to make it. I think in the edge room, I think everyone will make it, maybe except for Malone. I think they're probably going to keep 6 edges. So, I think Khalid Kareem is actually going to make it pretty clearly at this point. But
would he be your top surprise? Like, if anybody,
in terms of expectations, probably either that or Natrone Brooks, sort of emerging as a, legitimate, like.
Well, you talked about him. You liked him.
Yeah.
We talked about it before, so maybe not so much of a surprise.
Yeah. So based on expectations, Kareem definitely is the biggest surprise. But yeah, we'll see how much Kobe Bryant is able to show over the remaining weeks. He's obviously kind of made himself known over 2-day sample size thus far with.
I gotta believe he's going to make it. It'd be tough to let him go, because he'll be picked up right away.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be released at this point. We'll have to see him continue it, but yeah, to me, I think the surprise to some people might be, Kobe Bryant and Natrone Brooks making it over Clark Phillips.
Okay. And by the way, Barrow, he had a good chance to make the practice squad, right, Barrow?
I would say all those guys have a good shot at the practice squad. We'll see if Barrow's been playing sort of deep down the depth chart with like Lakeil London and those guys. But yeah, I think he had a sack the other day. So he's, he'll have an opportunity. Obviously, the Falcons aren't going to play starters, at least this week. So these guys will have a lot of run and get a chance to make a name for themselves in the preseason.
All right. Offensively, so let's go through offense. Big signing extension today with Caleb McGarry. And this offensive line, this unit, really, if you look at it, heading into this the season, for the past couple of seasons, well, again, we're still got to get into the season, but there's a lot of cohesion there. Yes, they lost their big center, but for the most part, very healthy last year, 4 starters returning this year. And we know how important that is, but that goes with really good scouting, because every player on that line were draft picks, except, of course, Newsel, who takes over for Dahlman.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, the Falcons love the continuity they have there. And, they continued it with Caleb McGarry getting a 2-year extension, just $15 million a year. So I don't know how they got him to take that low of a contract, considering the contracts we've just seen given out to offensive tackles. I mean, he wasn't going to be getting Slater money. Like, no one was expecting that. But I mean, I figured the negotiations would start at 20, considering he's been a, above average starting tackle. So, he takes a 2-year, $30 million extension. That's great. He's here to 2027 now. That'll be his age 32 season. So love to see that. Chris Lindstrom's arguably the best guard in football. We're expecting a lot from Bergeron. Jake Matthews is sort of the timeless tackle. He just continues to go out there and make plays. So the big question is Ryan Newsel. I would say he's been good so far in camp. I mean, there's not really too much to see. He's very limited contact, but Falcons have been opening holes for Bijan and Tyler Algier. Not really too many issues there. A few snap issues, but the continuity is still there with Newsel. Newsel ended up playing 9 games last year. Yep. When Dahlman was out. So the Falcons obviously trusted enough of what they saw there to think that he could be their starter. I think the biggest issue on the offensive line is they don't have a backup for Ryan Newsel. They have Javon Gwynn, who is very undersized and has been getting his lunch taken by Brooke Aroro pretty much every day.
Okay.
Poor guy. I think they need to get a veteran center to back up Newsel, and I assume they'll look for that at final cuts. But Storm Norton's obviously one of the better swing tackles in the NFL. The Falcons like that. They have 2 good backup guards in Elijah Wilkinson and Kyle Hinton. Really it's just center, that they're looking at in terms of depth. And I imagine, Newsel will get his chance to kind of prove himself as a, plus starting center. But if not, the Falcons probably be looking at center high in next year's draft. Maybe They will be anyway. But that offensive line still should be a big strength of this team.
And is the hope that Jack Nelson can be groomed in the next couple of years to potentially take over for Jake Matthews, so they don't have to spend a high draft pick or big money on a free agent? Or was that just, it's a 7th round pick. They don't really have any expectations for him.
I think they would love for him to take over for Jake Matthews. I think you would love to have a 7th round pick hit like that.
Of course.
My guess is like the more realistic outcome is that he's like a future swing tackle. Yeah. Maybe you're hoping for him to become Storm Norton. But for now, we'll have to see. He when McGarry has missed like a day or two for just like a rest day, and Nelson's gotten sort of the call up to the second string with Storm Norton moving to the first string, and he's been fine. But long way to go before we figure out if Jack Nelson's gonna be like taking over the lofty role of Jake Matthews, but certainly a guy that's intriguing, and has the tools. So I always like taking those late round tackles and just seeing what you can do. So we'll see how that develops.
Okay, as far as rookies along the line, along the offense, and you've already named Nick Nash. Joshua Gray, by the way, we talked about him, a very intriguing CFA because a lot of experience. Accolades at Oregon State. So that was a nice pickup after the draft. And also, I mentioned I really like Joshua Simon, the tight end that they picked up after the draft as well. Any of these guys, you hearing anything about them, or are they all looking like practice squad guys? Who has the best chance to make the team?
Most of those guys are with the third team. So it's just it's tough to just nobody's
too
really
early.
The third team.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's probably a preseason thing because those guys are going to play a lot. So we'll have to kind of see during the preseason if anyone stands out. Because as of now, everyone's just watching when they're doing team stuff. No offense to those guys, everyone's watching, Michael Penix and the first string go against the second string. So not too much to report there. I think this Friday we'll hopefully get some future looks at if any of these guys can
That's right.
Be something. Obviously there's an opportunity at backup center. So
there you go. And Nick Nash, again, I just think, and we talked about it, he has a really good chance just based on the fact that we would think that at some point, as soon as possible, they would like to replace River McLeod. He's nice player, did a nice job. Nobody expected it, but still, that's definitely a position that they would like to upgrade at some point. All right. So, all right, here's a question. Do you think that it's possible? And I know how much they can rotate the running back position because Algier is capable. But do you think it's possible this year, next year, for Bijan to be a 2,000-yard back?
I think, yeah. I mean, combined, he's gonna have a big passing game role. They would hate me like tweeting this out or like saying it, but he rotates out to the slot or out wide frequently. The Falcons are doing more 2 running back sets where they're trying to get, teams in base against Bijan as a pass catcher. One of the best throws at camp was Penix hitting Bijan on like a 30-yard wheel route for a touchdown. Just absolute perfect placement, dusting a linebacker, which, if the Falcons can get Bijan matched up on a linebacker, they're going to go to that matchup. So he's clearly worked a lot at building out. It's not a coincidence that I think Bijan's like sort of role model is Christian McCaffrey. They spent all summer together. Apparently they were working out, and Bijan was really sort of picking McCaffrey's brain and trying to be, trying to absorb that and become that type of back. And I think that's where this is heading if all goes well, is that the Falcons want Bijan to be just a 3-down menace that teams just can't take their eyes off.
Okay. And you think that could, so that's possible. You see that this season.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I don't know how, will it really big Christian McCaffrey level production yet?
Sure.
I don't know, but they're certainly going to try. And Penix loves throwing to Bijan. He goes to him all the time. So,
okay. All right. So Pitts, do you see his role expanding at all, or is he kind of 50-50 still, where, hey, he could wind up having his best year or he could still get traded?
I mean, Michael Penix really likes Kyle Pitts. I don't think that's fluff or just blowing smoke. Like every time, Pitts has had a limited role in camp. He frequently is held out of the late team sessions and will practice in the early ones. I don't know if they're just trying to keep him pristine or whatever is going on there. But, whenever Pitts is out there, Kyle Penix is targeting him constantly. I know today he had a great red zone touchdown to Kyle Pitts. So I think Pitts has gotten targeted a lot more than Ray McLeod.
He's like the slot. He's the real slot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, Ray McLeod will still have a role, and I'm sure Darnell Mooney and Drake London are more than likely still going to be above Pitts in terms of overall targets, but those Kyle Pitts targets with Penix are way more valuable than the Kirk Cousins targets, because Kirk just didn't really have the juice to hit Pitts, and they didn't really use him like that. It was a frustrating role for Pitts, I'm sure. And then Kirk clearly didn't trust him. He really wanted that more traditional slot receiver. So I think Penix is just all gas, no brakes. Like, he wants to throw the ball deep every play if he can. I think the Falcons have actually had to structure practice in such a way that it forces him to practice the short throws, because he'll take the deep shot. Like, he'll take it almost every time and convert it most of the time. But they were like, we need to work on some like short red zone stuff, because if there's one issue with Penix so far, it's been that he misses on some of the short stuff. He needs to take some mustard off some of those throws and work on the touch passes and things like that. But it's funny because the spectacular highlight throws, it's like every practice, there's like 3 or 4 of those. And sometimes the misses will be those little simple ones. So the Falcons have, I think, started sort of forcing him to throw short and try to like really help hone in some of that stuff. And that certainly improved a lot today. I know the last practice before today, Penix and Pitts and everybody, like, they really struggled in they did a lot of short game, a lot of red zone, a lot of like short down and distance stuff. And Penix was a little bit inconsistent there. Today, 12 of 15, had the touchdown to Pitts, was just really, really impressive. And, I think you can tell, like, they're really trying to hammer this stuff out and work on it. And, I think Penix has answered the call. I know some people were still questioning, is there any chance that Kirk Cousins, can outplay? No, there's not. No.
Yeah, it's over.
And Kirk looks healthy. He hit an awesome deep bomb to Casey Washington. He's given the first string defense some fits a couple days so far, and most of the time the first team defense is handling them. But he's really, I think, provided a good challenge for the first team defense, considering that he's a much better quarterback than you typically see on the second team.
Take advantage of it. Sure.
And Cousins looks healthy. He ran for a touchdown today, so that's not something we saw any of last year. And I saw him execute some rollouts and some play action, and he looks healthier. And he's got some zip. He's got the zip back. He's got the confidence back. So I still expect that Kirk Cousins will be playing somewhere else by week 1. But
I would, there's not enough good quarterbacks in the NFL for Kirk Cousins, a healthy Kirk Cousins, to be sitting on the bench.
Yeah,
that's just ridiculous. Now, is his contract, is that the biggest obstacle, or do you think it really won't matter? Whoever is going to need a quarterback, and maybe that's what we're waiting for, is an injury or something like that. At some point, something will open up, and when it does, he could be traded, and it really won't matter where.
Yeah, I mean, the contract is workable. I mean, I think the Falcons would probably be willing to play ball and figure out a way, because I think the Falcons would love to get a day 2 pick. So if that means they need to eat a lot of that contract, they're already eating it right now. They're already paying him. They can afford to pay him. So if a team wants him for cheap, as long as they're willing to come with a higher pick, and maybe that's not feasible, or maybe it will be. I mean, it probably depends on how desperate some of these teams get. But if the Falcons could get a third for Kirk and eat the contract or most of it, smart. I think they would absolutely go that route, because they need the picks next year. They traded away their first rounder for James Pierce, which so far actually looks like that was a good idea. But they need more picks next year to supplement that, and moving Kirk for a good pick, even if you have to eat the money, that could be their ticket to getting one of those day 2 picks that would help sort of offset the loss of that first rounder.
Have you heard anything at all about?
No, but we I mean, obviously the Jets dodged a bullet with the Justin Fields thing. That seems that
would have been an obvious one. Yeah,
I would have cried for my fantasy team too. But finally waited a whole year for Justin Fields to get another starting job, and then first practice. But
tell me about it.
But I don't know that the Jets would have been in on Kirk Cousins anyway, but it's not going to last. Someone's going to go down. Probably multiple quarterbacks will. It's usually 1 to 2 every preseason that we see. It sucks. But when it happens, it's going to heat up quick. Because Kirk is the last guy that's available. He is the last one. He is the guy, and he looks good. Everything's positive out of camp. And it's not just fluff. I wouldn't lie to you guys. If I thought Kirk looked terrible, I wouldn't be out here glazing him just to get a 3rd round pick. That's the team's job. All right. So, someone's going to come calling, and maybe it's a team that has an injury. Maybe it's a team like the Colts. It's we can't do this. We can't do this. This is not going to work. And that would obviously not be great for them either, considering how much money they've invested in draft capital. But, that team's not surviving in a losing season, so they may have to if it comes to that. But
if JJ goes down, that'll be an obvious marriage.
Oh
they got nobody backing up JJ.
No, I mean, I think the Vikings wanting Cousins is not, that's not a super well kept secret. I think they are just hoping the Falcons will cut him. I think everyone knows now that the Falcons will not cut him. They are not going to do it. So if you want him, you're going to have to trade. But I don't know if the Vikings are really going to be able to pull that off, but, I'm certain he's on. I mean, they had, if JJ, even sort of trips slightly, they'll be on the phone to the Falcons immediately. So, I don't know who it is yet that's going to trade for him, but I still think by week 1, he's going to start somewhere. So
it shows you right now, though. This is all you need to know about the fact that where the Saints are, because the Saints and even Cleveland, you can tell which teams are already focused on next year's draft, and hoping Arch comes out and other good quarterbacks will be there. You could just tell just by looking at the quarterback situation that here you got Kirk Cousins sitting here, and especially the Saints, that they're not interested, because they'll be happy with 3 wins, developing their young players, take a chance to see if Shuck can be better than anybody thinks, and then when he proves that
he's better than Spencer Rattler at this point.
And when he proves that he's not, then they'll get their top draft pick.
The Falcons would never trade him to the Saints either. Now, if they want to come with a first round pick or something, sure, we can have that discussion. If you want to give us that top 5 pick, yeah, sure, that's fine. But yeah, the Falcons would never trade Kirk Cousins to the Saints unless they were sending a ridiculous offer. They would never help New Orleans. Yeah, I mean, even if like it made sense from a team building perspective, I think fans would riot if the Falcons ever helped New Orleans. I think that maybe Fontenot has a soft spot for that team still, but nobody else in Atlanta does. That's for sure. So.
Okay. All right. So let's go through. Give me a breakout for both sides of the ball. Starting on offense, a player that you think could break out this year, and it doesn't have to be, a fantasy guy. It could be a lineman, but give me somebody who you think is a good breakout candidate.
Yeah, we'll go with Matthew Bergeron, and I think Bergeron took a step to being like an average to slightly above average guard last year. Was not someone that caused any problems for Atlanta after having sort of a rocky rookie year. He had to transition from right tackle to left guard. Not easy.
True.
I think this is the year where Bergeron finished really strong last year. PFF loved him. PFF had him with like a grade in the 80s. It was crazy. I was like, really? PFF usually hates Falcons offensive linemen except for Caleb McGarry and Jake Matthews, or they love Drew Dahlman too. But Bergeron, like, I don't think he was that good like last year, but I think he actually will be maybe that good this year. And that would obviously be great for the Falcons, who have a center that is unproven, I won't say untested because he did have to start last year and was fine. But, if they could surround Newsel with Bergeron and Chris Lindstrom and have two of the better guards in the NFL, next to two of the better tackles in the NFL, and Newsel is really the only guy that's sort of average. I think that's a great pathway because I think that one of the biggest issues with the team last year was that they could run right extremely well. Like the running right, they were like 5 yards a carry. It was great. Running left was a different story, and it really kind of made their run game a little predictable and difficult. And they also ran way too much outside zone, but that's a separate issue. Bergeron, if he can take that next step, and he's you could tell he's got that, he's really developed that sort of edge to him, that nastiness. I think James Pierce Jr. has been bringing it out of him. Those two have been going at it. But I think if he could take that next step to being a dominant run blocker, in addition to being a good pass protector, I think that will really sort of unlock something for this Falcons team to be able to diversify the run game. And, you combine that with a very different Falcons offense that we've seen, like since Bijan's been here, this Falcons offense, even, unfortunately, even with Kirk Cousins for a good percentage of that time, was very short passing heavy because Desmond Ridder couldn't throw the ball deep, couldn't really throw the ball much at all, for being honest. And then Kirk Cousins was hurt. So he really couldn't push the ball the way he wanted to and couldn't really avoid pressure. So the chances to make plays happen downfield, he did manage to do some of that, but it wasn't, it wasn't the same. Teams were still loading up to stop Bijan. Penix is going to force teams into too high coverage. He will relentlessly attack deep. If he sees cover one, he's going to throw the ball deep. So teams are not going to be able to play cover one against the Falcons, assuming Penix is hitting these deep shots. And that's going to force light boxes for Bijan Robinson that he's never gotten a chance to play against. So the idea, obviously, for this Falcons offense is that we're going to force you to play cover two because Michael Penix is a maniac. And Bijan Robinson is then going to be just getting lanes. And I think a big part of that is if it can be left and right that they can do that helps even more. So
yes. I think, by the way, Bijan Robinson 100-1 to win the NFL MVP.
Yeah. I mean, he's the Falcons want him to be Christian McCaffrey. He wants to be Christian McCaffrey. I think Christian McCaffrey wants him to be Christian McCaffrey. So like, I mean, it's all there for him. I think we're just this is the year that maybe the quarterback situation, and last year could have been this way, but Kirk wasn't healthy. This could be the situation where the quarterback situation in the passing game is finally there to take the pressure off of him, to be the engine of the entire offense, down in and down out. And
it's time.
It's time. So this is Bijan, the season of Bijan. So,
well, I don't think you're gonna. I mean, in a year-to-year draft, where do you think? Have you looked at it yet? I usually wait until like 2 days. I do so much information during the season anyway nowadays, where I don't do any of my fantasy research until like a couple of days before my draft, my regular year-to-year draft, because I just don't need it. And then I just kind of fine tune and look at the rankings and where's everybody getting picked. So I don't know if you've looked at that yet. Where do you think is Robinson like top 3, top 5? Because he should be.
He's 101.
He's 101.
He goes 101 most of the time. Yeah,
he does. Okay,
yeah.
Who goes like who's around him?
I think like Saquon is usually 2 or 3, and then trying to remember who the other running back that goes that high. But yeah, it's like Saquon and Bijan are typically fighting for the 101.
Derrick Henry, is he up there?
Henry's up there too, but I think there's obviously some concern about Henry with his age, even though Henry's clearly like a Terminator. I don't know. But
he is. He's a freak. Okay. So before we move over to the defense and ask you the same breakout question, who is the number 3 tight end and running back job wide open?
I think running back's more open. I think tight end 3 is Tegan Catoriano. He's played pretty much entirely with the second team. Whenever Pitts has come off, he's playing there. I think Felipe Franks has, continued the Felipe Franks tradition of just dropping passes. It's just his Achilles heel.
Yeah, he's not used to.
So I think it's Tegan Catoriano unless something changes. And then running back, like Carlos Washington Jr. is definitely the favorite. But I think Nate Carter is definitely one to watch because he's got that athleticism and he's got the return ability that the Falcons might want to have. So that one's maybe slightly more in contention, but I still think Carlos Washington Jr. is big favorite there.
Give me a breakout player on defense.
Yes. So, I mean, maybe it's cliche now, but I mean, I think it has to be James Pierce Jr. like immediately. Like, I mean, he's been the star.
Well, give me a non-rookie. Okay. Give me a non-rookie. A row, right?
Then Rook. Yeah. I mean, it's either him or Rook, but like Rook is, if whatever you wanted to see from Rook, like whatever you were hoping for, this is better. This is better than my wildest dreams of what I hoped from Rook. He has just the second team offensive line just can't handle him. He's just in the backfield. Like he's there. And like, I mean, half the time he just ends the play with his hands on his hips because he's got there so fast. They don't stop the play in training camp. So he's there. He's like, okay. And then he just kind of steps off to the side and then, they throw the ball still. But, he is a handful and the Falcons desperately needed that. They desperately needed an interior presence to emerge. David Onyemata, obviously the hope is still that he can do it. We know Morgan Fox is a good rotational pass rusher. And then we just like Rook is going to start. He's going to start and probably be the best player on the interior. I think it's a lot of that is probably in part to Rook for really committing to like improving and preparing and honing his game. But I think Nate Ollie is a huge part of that. And they're just going to unleash him. And if what we've seen in camp is any indication, he's going to emerge and be someone that teams will have to contend with right out of the gate.
That's great. And we also already went through the final roster surprise on defense being Kareem. So give me a final roster surprise player on offense, somebody that will surprise people that he actually made the team.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like the surprise, because I already had Nick Nash making my roster like as like an early thing. So if I didn't pick Nick Nash, because I think he's honestly not the favorite now to be on the roster, but we'll see how that develops.
Again, like we said about Kobe, you let him go, and he's probably going to get picked up.
Yep. So that's a thing. But David Sills is probably the sneakiest guy.
Okay, that's a good one.
Assuming DJ Shark doesn't emerge, once he knows the playbook, he's still kind of learning that stuff. David Sills has been the consistent guy. Kirk Cousins goes back to him multiple times a day, every day, touchdowns, first downs. Like he's big. He's just such a logical Drake London backup. He's very similar player to Drake London, not as athletic as London, not as physical, but same body type, can do the same stuff. He would make a lot of sense as that sort of reserve 6 receiver to back up Drake London if needed. He could play special teams, that sort of thing. So he's probably the guy that I would circle right now as sort of the surprise. But I don't think any of us would be shocked if either DJ Shark emerges as, just they want that depth. They don't really have a backup for Darnell Mooney, and he's the one that may or may not be available week 1. Or Nick Nash emerges as like, we just can't let this guy go. So,
okay. All right. So let's wrap up with the win total, some futures here. And Atlanta right now sitting at, let's see, they are at 7.5. You can look at it a couple different ways. You got 7.5. Let's see. Here we go. Wait, where are we? Oh, they got all sorts of different. I'm looking at Baltimore. No wonder.
I think it's It's like,
Okay,
whoa, that's aggressive. Yeah.
I know. I was like, where's that coming from? All right, so here we go. Over 7.5 minus 140. If you want to go 8.5, you get a little bit better, option there financially at plus 125. And if you really like Atlanta and think they can pull off a 10-win season, you're getting plus 225. So what do you think about if someone was interested in doing the Atlanta Falcons? Which one of these, and you don't have to do over, which one, but I know you will. Which one of these would you go with?
I'm an over better, all right? I'm not a coward. So, I think 8.5 is pretty easy money. If you want to just collect a nice little bet there.
I can't see this team being below 500 this year.
I just don't think they're going to do it again. It's been 7 years.
Yes.
Sooner or later, they're just going to luck into it, if nothing else. So,
what's interesting is the Falcons and Panthers are so similar in their franchises that they've had 7 straight years of being under 500. And when they weren't in that situation, that's when they had their their big run. I mean, the Falcons, of course, had their Super Bowl season in 2016. So Falcons have had 7 straight losing seasons. They haven't won a division title since 2016. That was their Super Bowl season. And if you look at it from the Carolina Panthers way of looking at it as well, they've had 7 straight losing seasons. And they have not won a division title since 2015, which was their Super Bowl season. Yep. And I think both of these teams are going to be over bets, in my opinion, this year. So I think you go over, you find a good over on both Atlanta and Carolina. And I think this division, especially because the Saints are going to be so bad that they're going to be 0-6 more than likely in the division. So the 3 teams will have 2 extra wins. And I think I could see all 3 teams hitting the overs this year.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think if you want to place a relatively safe bet, over 8.5, but if you feel good about this team, I mean, I think 9.5 is not a stretch at all, and you're going to double your money then. So, to me, I as a more aggressive over better, I'd probably I usually don't waste time with close to even money. It's just it's not getting me out of bed,
Sure.
But I look for that plus 200 number, and I think that 9.5, I feel like if they're over 500, they're just going to win 10 games. They're either going to have injury problems and then finish, below 500 again, or they're going to have 10 wins or more. And then, so it's maybe you just go for the 9.5, but I feel like the 8.5 is a pretty safe number. Cause I think 9 wins is already feels a little low for what this team has put together.
I think it's going to probably be whoever sustains the least amount of big injuries between those 3 teams. Because I think, and I'm including Carolina, I think they're going to have a much better season than most people think. I still think they're 3rd right now out of the 3. I'm not saying that, but one of these teams suffers some sort of an injury situation, then the other 2 teams, I think, take advantage of it. Because that's the other thing is it is going to be really hard for Tampa Bay and Atlanta, especially as the 2 top teams, to maybe have a high total because, if the Panthers do play better than people think, then it's you're kind of, you're kind of beating up each other in a way. And it's very hard for 3 teams in the same division to have, say, 9 or 10 wins.
Yeah, I think the Bucks, to me, the Bucks, you still love the front office, but there's no way they're going to hit on 3 straight offensive coordinator hires. It's just, there's no way. There's going to be regression.
Yes.
There's just no way. The fact that they hit on 2 is a miracle.
Yes.
It's just not going to happen again. Now the talent is good enough that it's not going to cause that many issues, but the run game being great last year was a product of Liam Cohen just crushing it. I think they might go back to being a team that struggles to run the ball again this year, but you've already seen the Bucks get hit with the injury bug. I mean, Baker Mayfield's not practicing. They're the one rookie pass rusher they added, which they really needed pass rushers, and they waited. I love Emeka Egbuka. I don't think that's a bad pick, but you passed on pass rusher, then you waited to take David Walker, who I did love. He's out for the year now. Torn ACL. Sucks. Hate it for him. But he was the one guy you added.
Yep.
He's gone. So now you're depending on Hassan Reddick, who like didn't even show up for the Jets last year.
Yeah,
like,
I think that was
yes. There's
that
more
was more
to
the
it than
Jets'
that,
fault. But I get what
yes,
you're saying. Yeah,
but it's like it's been years since Hassan Reddick's done anything in the NFL. So like,
yeah.
I mean,
they need Braswell. Braswell also has to take that next step, sort of like what Arroyo did. I mean, you know,
so I think that Bucs defense is a concern point. The offense is still going to be good, even with offensive coordinator regression. I think that receivers are too good. And you know, but Tristan Wirfs is out. Like, and they say it's only going to be a month, but like,
you never know.
What if something happens? Like,
that would be big.
They cut their swing tackle. They have a new swing tackle. His name Charlie Heck.
Charlie Heck.
I can just see people yelling Heck from the sidelines. Like,
and they do have injuries in that defensive backfield. Winfield, as great as a player he is, he does get banged up too much, and they can't afford that. But
that team is they were very fortunate to have the Falcons implode last year, because the Falcons beat them twice. And one of those games wasn't that close. The other one was
they're starting the season. Look at this. And they beat them twice last year. They're the home dog.
No respect.
No respect.
But
Tampa Bay, but see, that is the interesting thing, is you have Tampa Bay's won the division, 5 straight times, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would say, they should be the favorite, but Atlanta just beat them last year.
And
twice.
Atlanta usually beats them in Atlanta too. So like even when the Bucs have been good, they usually split. So that's an odd line to me. I mean, I think on FanDuel it was like 1.5. So it's like, you know, that's a little bit more respectful, but still. But yeah, the Falcons also are notoriously bad week 1 team. So that's probably part of it too.
Okay.
Yeah, because Raheem Morris won't play any starters in the preseason. So like they're going to go in there sloppy as hell. I mean, last year the Falcons ran a completely different offense in week 1, where Kirk Cousins like never took a single snap under center. They lined up in the pistol the entire game, and that never returned, thankfully. But if they had gotten 1 touchdown or 1 more field goal, they would have beat the Steelers and probably, made the playoffs. So they came out looking like a completely unhinged operation that didn't know what they were doing. And Raheem Morris won't play guys in the preseason. They're going to start sloppy, but the Bucs might also be really banged up at that point.
They could.
We'll see how this progresses. I know everyone's saying like, "Oh, it's no big deal with Baker Mayfield. It's okay that he's missing like 3 practices, 4 like, I don't know. I'm starting to get a little concerned."
Like you said, it's a virus. Teams just, they get it. And right now, the Bucs seem to be one of those. They're on the high list right now of teams who could have the virus bug of injuries.
So certainly not wishing that for them.
Nobody wants.
It's always painful. I mean, David Walker was one of my favorite prospects, so that sucks for him. And Tristan Wirfs. I mean, if you love offensive line play, that's the guy to watch. So it's going to be tough, and they already have to deal with the offensive coordinator change on top of that. So
you're right. I mean, I've said the same thing over and over again about, look, it happened at Baltimore on the defensive side last year. Mm-hmm. You can't. You go to that third assistant or that third head coach, and I'm sorry, but it just, the law of averages do eventually catch up to you. You can't be that lucky or that good, I should say. And it's just so we'll see if Tampa Bay can overcome that. So it's Tampa Bay at Minnesota week 2. That would be interesting if JJ got hurt and Kirk went to the Vikings.
The revenge game,
yeah. And then a Carolina on the road, Washington NFC championship game loser in week 4, and then the bye, and then they come out of the bye with the Buffalo Bills, the AFC championship loser. Nobody knows what to expect with the Niners this year. They're dealing with injuries again. So that's a team to keep an eye on, but you would expect they'll be better. And then finally a potential break potentially in week 8. So that is some schedule that Atlanta is starting out with.
It's going to be a spicy opening 2 months for this team. And we'll know early if this team is going to be like a contender. We'll know very quickly. Like if they come out firing, and go on a run against that gauntlet to open the year, then everyone will be like, "Oh wow, this is this year's command, like this is last year's Commanders." Like, at the same time, if they struggle and go 500 through that stretch, no one's gonna care. Like it's gonna be okay. Like I expect them to have a losing record going into week 8, and then they're gonna.
But that was Washington last year. Washington was basically a 500 team, and then they went on a 6-game winning streak to end the season.
Yeah. So they're going to pile up wins in the middle of this schedule. It's Dolphins, Patriots.
That's good.
Yeah.
And the Colts. There you go.
I mean, Panthers
that's a home game
at home.
And here come the Saints.
And
the Jets. You don't know, but they haven't been good.
Yeah. Justin Fields is Atlanta's kryptonite. Seattle. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a lot easier in the second half of the season. So yeah, if you could just get through those first 6 games are they?
Yeah,
3-3. You're doing good. You're in great shape.
That we'll know. Like they're gonna play all these teams, and several of those are primetime games. Like we'll know very quickly if this team is gonna be better than expected. And like also like even if they don't win, if they look like good, like if they can play like they did last year, like against the Commanders and all these teams, like
even if they're 2-4 and they compete,
it'll be like, oh yeah, well they played an absolute gauntlet and so on and so forth. But sooner or later they do have to win some games, so hopefully they can start doing that in the middle of the season if it's taken a little bit at the front end. But Tampa Bay with a new offensive coordinator with probably a lot of guys injured, week 1 that could be an opportunity to take advantage of that team at maybe not at full strength. Vikings week 2, again, same thing, like second game for JJ McCarthy, might not be firing on all cylinders yet. That might give them a leg up there. And then we'll see, and we'll see how the rest of it progresses. But tough opening salvo, no doubt about that.
Actually, it might be a good situation to remember if they get off to let's say they get off to a 2-4 start. Keep an eye on this number. Keep an eye on other odds, making the playoffs, things of that nature, because of the way that schedule looks in the second half of the season, or most of the, you can almost look at it as 3/4 of the rest of the season. That could just tell you that, hey, maybe I'll get a better number and they could make a really big run and still win the division because they're going to start out as the second choice here at 250. Bucks obviously should be the favorite. And there you go. So, what do you think?
I'd hit that. Yeah, I'd take that number. Yeah.
Would you rather take this number or gamble on the win total?
I think I like the NFC South better because again, I think the Bucks are just sooner or later they're not going to win this division. I'm not taking negative money pretty much ever. So but. I think plus 250 is a good number. You feel good about that. And, and again, you get better numbers on this than you do for the win total. And in order to match it with that win total, you have to get above 9.5. Right. So at that point, I think, I feel pretty good about that 250. But yeah, I mean, that one could be interesting too. But you never know. I feel like this could be a year where we just have a random down year for the Bucks or something too.
Yeah. And
they've been very fortunate to avoid that for many years now.
Well, if that happens,
just throw 10 on that,
bets. Yeah. If that happens, absolutely. Why not? Yeah, that's right there.
Not?
I don't think that's a bad one at all. By the way, Atlanta is 35-1 in the NFC and 80-1 Super Bowl, in case you're interested in those numbers. We don't expect Atlanta is at that stage just yet, but you got to get to the postseason first, get your feet wet and all that stuff, and then maybe you could take a look at 2026 as a potential nice sleeper for the Super Bowl. But you got to get those wins going, maybe at least a win in the playoffs, that kind of thing, and we'll see. Anyway, either way, at least Falcon fans must be very excited about this season because, like we just talked about, 7 straight non-winning seasons will test your faith, that's for sure, as far as the franchise is concerned. So I'm sure there's a lot of fans out there that are really pumped up. And I'm sure you're probably seeing it on your show because you've got your show you're doing. How often, Kevin? Every day?
We're 3 days a week right now. We'll probably go to 4 or 5 during the season, depending on the week. But yeah, we're rolling. It's Dirty Birds and Brews on your podcast platforms, The Falcoholic on YouTube. Come check us out. We got live streams every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, and then we'll be doing live preseason watch parties for all the preseason games and then live post games after the games go live. And then I think we may have another live show in the works with some other hosts on the Believe Network. But that one's still under wraps. But stay tuned, because there might be some other stuff coming too.
Awesome. Yeah. If you're a Falcon fan, check it out. It's always great to hang out with like-minded fans. And that's the best place to do it if you're a Falcon fan. We got links in the description. You can see it right now in this video. Just check it out, whether you're watching live or on demand. And also you can check out the links for how to follow Kevin on social media. So Kevin, I'm sure we're going to talk during the season several times. And since there's a Jet game and it's late in the season, hopefully we will have a really good season. How crazy would that be that the Falcons and the Jets would actually be having good seasons at the same time?
What's the odds on like Falcons, Jets both making the playoffs? We should look at that prop, but
that's going to be significant.
Yeah.
So, and that's mostly because of the Jets. But anyway, that combination would be pretty high. Still, could be real fun. Either way, I'm sure we'll talk way before that matchup, which happens a little bit later on in the season. And I'll be talking to you probably in the next week or so as we gear up our Dynasty League once again. You and I have a trade pending. We got to just make sure, of course, in the next couple of weeks, neither of our players get injured or neither of our backup running backs starters get injured, which would be like, well, I don't think we're going to make that deal now. That Breece Hall just went out for the season So anyway, Kevin, I appreciate it as always. Looking forward to talking to you again during the season here on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You got it.